brief introduction. As the name implies, absorption refrigeration systems using ammonia water. Ammonia is the refrigerant and water is the absorbent, and they are extensively used in refrigeration applications. Since ammonia is a refrigerant, it is possible to provide refrigeration at sub-zero as well as above 0 degree centigrade temperatures. That means actually ammonia water systems are much more versatile than water lithium bromide systems, because you do not have the problem of temperature restriction, whereas in water lithium bromide systems you cannot operate the system below 0 degree centigrade, whereas ammonia water systems can be used for both sub-zero as well as above 0 degree centigrade application. That means you can use them for air conditioning as well as refrigeration applications such as cold storage. Okay, so in this manner they are more versatile. However, compared to water lithium bromide systems, the analysis of ammonia water systems is relatively complicated. In fact, I have mentioned this in the last class. The complication comes because the vapor generated in the generator is a mixture of refrigerant and absorbent. And what is the reason for this? The reason for this is the low boiling point temperature difference between ammonia and water. This is about 133 degrees centigrade. In water lithium bromide systems, the boiling point temperature difference between the absorbent and refrigerant is very high. As a result, in the generator, as I mentioned in the last class, you will not find any absorbent, or the amount of absorbent is practically negligible. That means what you have in the generator exit is a pure water vapor. Okay, so in the refrigerant circuit you have pure refrigerant circulating, whereas in the ammonia water systems, because of the low boiling point temperature difference, when you boil the solution, you find that both ammonia vapor as well as water vapor both are generated in the generator. Okay, so if nothing is done, then both refrigerant as well as absorbent enters into the refrigeration circuit, and this will create some problems which I will show now. So, if water is allowed to circulate with ammonia in the refrigeration circuit, what are the problems? The problems are, first problem is that the heat transfer in condenser and evaporator becomes non-isothermal, then evaporator temperature increases, evaporation will not be complete, water may get accumulated in the evaporator leading to malfunctioning of the plant, and finally the circulation ratio also increases. All these effects are detrimental to system performance. So, what we have to do is we have to minimize the concentration of water vapor in ammonia at the exit of the condenser or at the inlet to the at the exit of the generator or at the inlet to the condenser. We have to ensure that almost pure ammonia vapor goes to the condenser. So, this requires additional components, namely a rectification column and a deflegmator. As a result of this, you will find that the design of ammonia water systems are more complicated, and the cost also is higher because of the additional components. Not only that, due to these additional components, the system COP is also reduced when you compare it with water lithium bromide system. So, these are the main differences between water lithium bromide systems and ammonia water systems. Now, let us first begin the discussion with properties of ammonia water solutions. As we have done in the last class, let us begin with composition. So, similar to water lithium bromide solution, we can also define composition of ammonia water solution in terms of either mass fraction or mole fraction. However, there is one important difference. In case of water lithium bromide systems, the mass fraction, mole fraction, composition, everything is defined in terms of the mass or number of moles of lithium bromide. That means it is defined on the basis of the absorbent, whereas in case of ammonia water systems, the mass fraction, mole fraction are defined on the basis of ammonia. That means they are on the basis of refrigerant. Okay, so as a result of which the meaning of strong and weak solutions will be different for these two systems. Okay, I shall discuss this in the subsequently, but you have to keep in mind that when I say mass fraction in water lithium bromide system, it means mass of the lithium bromide to the mass of the total solution, whereas in ammonia water systems, when you say mass fraction or mole fraction, that means we are always referring to the mass of the ammonia or number of moles of ammonia in total in the total mass of the solution, or in the total number of the molecules in the solution. Okay, so the mass fraction is defined as mass of ammonia Ma divided by the total mass of the solution, that is Ma plus Mw, where Ma and Mw are masses of ammonia and water respectively. Similarly, just like the earlier the composition can also be expressed in mole fraction. So, if I am writing this in mole fraction, this is the liquid phase mole fraction, X is defined as the number of moles of ammonia in liquid phase divided by the total number of moles in liquid phase. Okay, and this can be easily obtained from the mass of the substance and its molecular weight. For example, Na, that is the number of moles of ammonia, is equal to mass of ammonia divided by the molecular weight of ammonia. Similarly, the number of moles of water is equal to mass of water divided by the molecular weight of the water. And for calculation purposes, you can take the molecular weight of ammonia as 17 kg per kilomole and molecular weight of water as 18 kg per kilomole. However, there is one important difference between lithium bromide, water lithium bromide systems and ammonia water systems. Because the vapor above ammonia water above the solution consists of both ammonia vapor as well as water vapor. Okay, that means we have to talk about composition in the liquid phase as well as composition in vapor phase, because you have mixer in both liquid as well as in vapor phases. Okay. So, to distinguish between the concentration in liquid and vapor phases, we define superscript L for liquid phase composition and superscript V for vapor phase composition. So, when I say XL, that means mole fraction in liquid phase. Similarly, X superscript V means mole fraction in vapor phase. Okay, this is the nomenclature I will be using throughout this lecture. Alright. So, similarly, zeta L stands for liquid phase mass fraction and zeta V stands for vapor phase mass fraction. Vapor phase composition can be found by assuming ideal solution behavior. If you are assuming that it is behaving as an ideal solution, then you can apply ideal gas equations like Dalton's law, etc., and you can find out the vapor phase composition. But the actual mixer deviates from ideal behavior. So, the actual composition have to be obtained from equilibrium vapor pressure composition charts or equations. Okay, so let me just show a typical vapor pressure composition chart. Okay, so what I am showing here is a typical vapor liquid equilibrium chart, where you have mass fraction of ammonia in vapor phase as x axis and y axis is pressure or saturated temperature of ammonia. Okay. So, this is an equilibrium chart, that means the vapor is in equilibrium with the solution. Okay. And also shown here are different concentration lines for liquid. Okay. These are the liquid constant liquid concentration lines, all these. Okay. So, if you know the concentration of the liquid, for example, let us say that this is the concentration of the liquid and this is the pressure, then you can easily read what is the concentration of ammonia in vapor phase. Okay. Similarly, you can find out from the pressure and solution also. Okay. Such kind of charts are available in literature, using which you can find out the exact composition in vapor phase from the knowledge of liquid phase composition and the pressure. Now, let us look at vapor pressure of ammonia water solutions. So, both ammonia and water vapor contribute to total pressure. So, we have to write from Raoult's law the total pressure. If you are assuming that the mixer behaves as an ideal mixer, then you can use the Raoult's law, and from Raoult's law you know that the total pressure P is equal to x into Pa plus Pw into 1 minus x, where x is the liquid phase mole fraction of ammonia and Pa and Pw are the saturated pressures of ammonia and water at that particular temperature. But we know that the ammonia water mixer deviates strongly from Raoult's law in a negative manner. So, you cannot really use the above expression when the concentration is high. Okay. So, let me give an example. At 40% mass fraction at 40 degree centigrade, if you are using Raoult's law, you will find that the total pressure is 6.47 bars. Okay. So, this is what is obtained from Raoult's law, but you will find that from actual measurements the total pressure is 3.03 bar. Okay. So, the deviation is really strong. This gives an activity coefficient of less than 0.5. Okay. So, vapor pressure data for ammonia water solutions are also available in the form of empirical equations and charts such as During plot and all, and I have discussed these During plots etc. in the last lecture, and the construction wise the plots will be exactly similar. That means the During plot for ammonia water system will be almost similar to During plots of water lithium bromide systems. Okay. Now let us introduce an important concept of what is known as bubble point and dew points for ammonia water mixer. In fact, this discussion holds good for any binary mixer which is a geotropic mixer. Okay. So since the mixture of ammonia water behaves as a geotropic mixer except at the eutectic points, at a eutectic point it behaves as a geotropic mixer, but otherwise it behaves as a geotropic mixer. So what is the meaning of the geotropic mixer behavior? It means that at a given pressure change of phase takes place over a gliding temperature. Had it been an azeotropic mixer or had it been a pure fluid, then you know that change of phase takes place at a constant temperature. But if the mixer behaves as a geotropic mixer, you will find that change of phase, for example boiling or condensation, you will find that at a given pressure boiling and or condensation take place over a gliding temperature, not at a constant temperature. This is the nature of geotropic mixers. Okay. If it is as I have already repeated, if it is a pure fluid or an azeotropic mixer, the phase change takes place at a constant temperature when the pressure is kept constant. Okay. So in the two phase region, the composition of liquid will be different from the composition of vapor. So let me explain this. Let us do a small experiment. Let us assume that we have a cylinder, okay, and the cylinder has a free floating piston, and this is loaded by fixed weights. Okay, so these are the weights, and initially this piston cylinder arrangement consists of subcooled liquid of ammonia water solution. Okay. So initially we have subcooled liquid of ammonia water solution, and we are exerting a constant pressure because it is a free floating piston and the weights are kept constant. So the pressure exerted on the system remains constant throughout the process. Now let us say that we start heating the system, or we start heating the solution by supplying heat to the solution. Okay. Then what happens? You will find that since the initial condition is subcooled liquid, to start with nothing happens, okay, but as the temperature increases slowly, you find that at a certain point the first vapor bubble forms. Okay. So if the cylinder is a transparent cylinder, you will observe that the first vapor bubble forms at a particular temperature. Let me call it as T bubble. Okay. So T bubble is the temperature at which the first vapor bubble forms at a constant pressure. Okay. So if you heat the solution further, let us say that state 2, so you continuously supply heat, you will find that temperature increases, and along with the temperature more and more vapor formation takes place. That means more and more liquid is converted into vapor. So you can see that there is a lot of vapor here. Okay. So this process continues as long as liquid is present. Okay. So at a particular point you will find that the last liquid droplet also evaporates. That means at a particular temperature, let me call it as T dew point, okay, the last liquid droplet evaporates. Further heating will simply result in superheating of the vapor. Okay. So here you have vapor, here you have as I said the subcooled liquid, and here you have a two phase mixer consisting of vapor and liquid. Okay. Now so let us say that you are plotting this process. Let me say that we have taken a graph paper, and I have on the x axis I have composition, and on the y axis I am plotting temperature, and let us say that P is constant here. Let us say that this is the initial concentration, okay, and you are plotting this process on this chart. Then you find that as you start heating it, let us say that this is the initial some initial temperature. Okay. So as you start heating it, at some particular point the first vapor bubble forms, okay, and at some other temperature the last liquid bubble droplet evaporates. So you get 2 points here. Further heating will result in continuous increase of temperature. Okay. Now let us say that I repeat this experiment with another concentration. Okay. You find that exactly same process appears, but these two temperatures will be different. So instead of having temperatures like this, you will have another two temperatures. Okay. If you are starting this process at this initial concentration, then again you will find that you will have some other temperatures. Okay. So if you carry out this experiment for different concentrations, you will find different temperatures. Okay. And if you join all these temperatures, you get what is known as a dew point and bubble point lines for this pressure. Okay, so let me show this dew point and bubble point lines. Okay, so what I am showing here is a plot obtained by taking concentration or mass fraction on x axis and the temperature on the y axis. As I said, we are keeping the pressure constant, and this data is obtained by varying the concentration from 0 to 1. What do you mean by 0? 0 means it is pure water. Okay, 1 means it is pure ammonia. Okay. So, if you are carrying out the experiment taking pure water in the piston cylinder arrangement, you will find that you have only one point at which phase change takes place, because obviously pure water is a pure fluid. So, phase change takes place at a constant temperature. Let us say that you have marked that point on this temperature axis like this. Okay. Similarly, if you are conducting the experiment with pure ammonia, again you will find that the phase change takes place at a constant temperature, which is nothing but the boiling point or saturation temperature corresponding to this pressure, okay, at P. Similarly, this is the saturation temperature for water, okay, at this pressure, and the intermediate points, as I was mentioning, are the bubble points for different concentrations, but at the same pressure. Similarly, the points on this line are the dew points at different concentration and at the same pressure, okay, and this line, what is called as the bubble point line, is nothing but the loci of all the bubble points. Okay, that means you have joined all the bubble points starting with the saturated point for water and saturated point for ammonia, then you get a curve of this shape. Okay, so this is your bubble point line. Similarly, if you join all the dew points, you get a line called as dew point line. Okay, so you have ultimately you get a shape of this form. Okay, so you get a dew point line and a bubble point line, and what you have here below the bubble point line you have a subcooled liquid, and above the dew point line you have a superheated vapor region. Okay, and in between the dew point and bubble point line you have the two phase liquid plus vapor region. Okay, so this is the typical dew point bubble point line lines for a constant pressure. Okay, that means at a single pressure, and the process of the heating is shown here. As I explained to you, we started with a subcooled liquid. So, point 1 lies in the subcooled region. So, we started heating it, that means the temperature started increasing, and this is the point at which the first vapor bubble appeared. So, that is why this is the temperature, bubble point temperature at this concentration zeta 1 and at this pressure P. Okay. So, if you heat it further, you are in you have entered into the two phase region. Okay. So, that means you have both liquid as well as vapor. If you continuously heat it, you arrive at a point at which the last liquid droplet evaporates, as I have already mentioned. Okay. And this temperature where the last liquid droplet evaporates, as I told you, is nothing but the dew point. Okay. So, you can read the dew point and bubble point from this chart. What is interesting is the two phase region. See, if we started with initial composition of zeta 1, okay, and so in the subcooled region the concentration is zeta 1. Okay. So, what is the concentration of the first vapor bubble that is formed here? You can find that one by drawing a horizontal line like this, okay, and where this line intersects the dew point line, that will give you the concentration of the first vapor bubble that is formed. Because what happens is, let us say that you have taken a solution which consists of ammonia and water. Ammonia has much lower boiling point compared to water. So, when you are heating that solution and when you are keeping the pressure constant, and if you have heated it sufficiently, you will find that ammonia liquid starts evaporating first. Why does it evaporate first? Because it has a lower boiling point. Okay. And later water starts evaporating. So, the first vapor bubble that has formed will be rich in ammonia and weak in water vapor. Okay. So, as you continuously heat it, you will find that progressively the vapor that is forming will be rich in water, will be stronger in water also. Okay. So, initial vapor to